2. Welcome back at WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. It was not the best of times on Sunday for the Baltimore Ravens. This guy and I get together a couple times a week, and we sort of dip the thermometer and get the temperature of what's going on around here. At some point, he will, now it's the quarter pole, rinses Lamar Jackson jersey. Dennis Koulatsos joins us from Coons Florida Security Boulevard, as he does twice a week. You can hear him here at the SSV on WNST on Thursdays, as well as on Twitter on Sundays, and with me after the games. And, boy, we were smelling ourselves this time week and a half ago, weren't we? Heading to Kansas City, feeling real good about ourselves. Now all of a sudden it's Pittsburgh week around here, and we've got a real season, and we're not as good as we think we are, and I think Cleveland is maybe better than we want them to be.
Yeah, what I haven't still moved to the Pittsburgh game. I'm still stuck on the Browns game, Nestor, and look, they're feeling real good about being 2-2. We feel horrible about being 2-2. We had a chance to relegate them to 1-3, step on their throats. We failed to do so, and now, depending on the outcome of the Bengals-Steelers game, the Steelers, should they win, they have a chance to drop us to 2-3, improve themselves to 2-3. The Browns travel to San Francisco for a Monday night matchup, and look, it is conceivable that all three teams could be tied in 2-3 the next time you and I talk on the air. So a lot of things could happen, and I happened to run into Kevin Byrne at the stadium, and we were both talking about the magnitude of the game. The Ravens had a great chance to take hold of the division, take control of the division, rather control rest with the Cleveland Browns.
Well, and I think everything turns here on the fumble with Ingram, and I don't want to say the season turns, but it was feeling like they were going to win. It was feeling like it was going to be 3-1. 3-1 feels a lot different than 2-2, and the Browns being 2-2, and the way that they closed the game out. Lamar threw the desperate pick, and all of that happened. It was not a good defensive effort, and 530 yards, even when you feel like I just painted a rosier picture of how it could have been. And then in the aftermath, the Earl Thomas, Brandon Williams situation, disconcerting that it happened, even more so that it makes its way to a reporter and whatever it was. And I saw Earl Thomas come out of there, and I saw him walking with no limp because there were questions in the aftermath about him pulling up, and then after that saying, I didn't want to pull a hamstring. I don't know what's going on, but there's no track record amongst these human beings working together with any success. And when you pull Flacco out, and you pull Mosley out, and you pull Weddle out, and you pull Suggs out, and you bring something else in, it's not going to be what it used to be. And I don't. This week will tell a lot. I mean, John Harbaugh's a great leader. You agree with that? I agree with that. We saw it last year. It's the reason he's still here all these years later. This would be a pretty good week to rebound.
Well, the Browns have a lot of talent, Nestor, so I'm still optimistic about the season. The Browns remind me of Jacksonville a couple of years ago when the Ravens went across the pond and they had the kneeling and whatnot, and all of a sudden, from a football standpoint, all these number one draft picks came together and played real well. I mean, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, they've got some real studs on that defense, and they were able to throttle the Ravens' offense. The front seven, I thought, was exceptional. They were still missing three-quarters of their secondary. The backups stepped up and really shut down the Ravens. So I thought defensively did a great job on us, and our defense was just a sieve. I thought stopping Nick Chubb was job one. They failed to do that. He's a very good running back, but they made him look like Jim Brown, and the tackling was horrific. The communication with the back end. I mean, this defense, this secondary, Nestor, hasn't stopped anyone the entire season. Kyler Murray had his way with him, and Patrick Mahomes, now Baker Mayfield, and even Ryan Fitzpatrick had some success moving the ball against the secondary. So they really need Jimmy Smith to come back sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I don't know what an altercation in a training room that leaks out between a Hall of Famer and a highly paid defensive player who was walking fine on Wednesday and couldn't go on Sunday. And I can only imagine, as the reporter in me would say to Earl Thomas, you better figure yourself out on the back end, right? And the reporter and me would say to Brandon Williams, hey, dude, I'm not here to doubt your heart, but I would say this, and I said this out on Twitter in the second quarter, they are a different defense, and as much as we don't give Brandon Williams the Haloti Nada love here, maybe because he doesn't deserve, he's not going to the Hall of Fame. He's a well-paid player. He's a likable guy. He's a guy that I think people in the locker room do like. And when he couldn't go on Sunday, it made me think back to the London game, right? In a way that they got run on and they got run on. And when Brandon Williams isn't there, they get run on. And I don't know that we compare him to any of the all-time greats or feel like he's a difference maker, but the definition of a difference maker is when you're not there, bad things happen. That makes you a difference maker to me.
Yeah, they're definitely a different defense when he's not in there. He's very, very good, and that was noticeable. I don't make too much of the altercation. Things are going to happen, particularly when you suffer your second loss in a row, particularly to a bitter division opponent. And Earl Thomas, I'm not as down on him as most people are. I've watched some tape on him. I think he's been playing at a good level, not a great level, but they do have some communication things that they've got to clean up right away because there's tight ends running free and wide receivers running free, and Jarvis Landry, if he didn't suffer that concussion in the third quarter, he would have probably eclipsed the 200-yard mark.
He is the Sunday Sports Voice, heard Thursdays from 3 until 5. And, of course, on Sunday mornings, you can find him at SSV on WNST, as well as a blog out of WNST.net and in our morning newspaper, shipped courtesy to you by our friends at Planet Fitness as well. Dan, for you with picking up the pieces here in Pittsburgh week and where they are and injuries and sort of general mojo of 9 minutes away from maybe closing out a game and squeaking one out and changing the course. The Browns have some really tough games the next 4 or 5 weeks. Then they got a sled ride down a hill the end of the year. I don't know how they're going to deal with that, but Baker Mayfield certainly appointed himself well. I know Odell Beckham Jr. wasn't a big part of the game. Jarvis Landry was really kind of a Jimmy Smith kind of killer on Sunday, quite frankly. But for what I saw with Baker Mayfield and the last 20 years of the Browns coming in here, I feel like Baker Mayfield's going to be coming in here for a number of years, and we're going to have to figure this out. I'm not used to seeing happy Browns quarterbacks on our field. That doesn't happen much around here.
Yeah, that's very true. And although Odell Beckham Jr. didn't show up big on the stat box, I think he only had 2 catches until the game was well in hand in the fourth quarter, but he did run some drag routes. He commanded double coverage. He allowed single coverage on Jarvis Landry, and he was also a big reason why Landry and the tight ends were able to get some open space because, again, the guy just attracts so much attention. But they're going to be a handful to deal with, not just for now, but for years to come. They have a lot of talent on that team, and if Freddie Kitchens can keep that locker room together, and that's what winning does for you. But they have as you mentioned, a tough road ahead of them. They have a tough Monday night matchup against a very good San Francisco team. A lot of things can happen, Nestor. A lot of season left. No time to press the panic button. And like you, I have great confidence in John Harbaugh and the coaching staff. Hoping they'll be able to put it all together. And this team's got to get healthy sooner rather than later. I thought the Browns did a great job on Lamar Jackson. They put a cage around him, so to speak, and they kept him in front of him. He is a difference maker. And as you mentioned correctly, that fumble by Mark Ingram was untimely, and that definitely shifted the momentum of the game. But the defense still had a chance to get a 3-and-out and get that team off the field. And for the umpteenth time, they failed to do that.
I think we can all stand to be impressed by Lamar Jackson in the way that they've moved this offense, right? Like, we're at the quarter pole now, right? So a little evaluation of this that we didn't have 4 weeks ago on the back end of preseason football and the awfulness that it represents and what they're trying to do. And for 4 weeks, it's been very obvious that Greg Roman, this isn't a bumper car offense anymore, right? Like last year, it really did feel like bumper cars. It felt like a game of keep away and hide the ball. It's not so much that right now. I mean, it feels a little more mature than that, and certainly in the route running and what they're trying to do across the middle of the field. But a lot of that wasn't available to Lamar Jackson on Sunday.
No, it wasn't. They had they had some uncharacteristic drops by Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews. There was a deep pass that was intercepted in the end zone that I thought Andrews got interfered with. It looked like the linebacker grabbed his arm while the defensive back went up over the top. I'm not sure why Coach Harbaugh and the rest of the Ravens staff wouldn't challenge that play. That would have been a big play had it been reversed. The Ravens would have had a first and goal on a 1-yard line versus the interception. So I don't know if anybody got any clarification on that. But look, they're going to score points. The offense still put up 170-plus yards on the ground rushing. The biggest problem has been that defense. I mean, letting up long drives and not being able to get off the field on third down. So Wink Martindale, he's got his hands full. He's got to figure this thing out.
Well, that was part of the beauty of the offense, right? It was the defense would go 3 and out and get the ball back last year. That's how you go on the ground in these 12-play drives and the things that they were doing last year that makes this year very, very different. Dennis Koulatsos is here. He's over at Coates Florida Security Boulevard. He's selling cars, and you still have some cars left, right? I mean, this is the time of the year to get the best deal. I think everybody knows that, right?
Yeah, it's our fourth quarter. We want to close out the year strong. The manufacturer wants to close out the year strong. Look, GM's got some problems right now. They've got some work stoppages with some of the union workers, and we have a lot of inventory on the ground and coming in. We have to move it, and we're looking to move up in our market share, so that's good news for our consumers. They can save a ton of money here. They get top dollar for the trade-ins, and no one does a better job of servicing our customers after the sale than we do.
And great food on Saturday afternoons as well. Anything you want to say about the Terps? I mean, the Billick thing was magical for me, like right over the weekend. So Friday night, I was at Maritime Magic. I never checked the score. I never... I found out who the new president of the Orioles is on Friday night at a party, and I was texting back and forth with some people. But I checked my phone literally at midnight and saw it was 59-0. And then I spent Saturday evening with Kim Herring, and he said, "Oh, man, Wally's coming over." And I'm like, "Wally who?" "Wally Richardson." I'm like, man, 2 Penn State guys, including one who's the alumni manager, Wally Richardson. That's what he does for a living now. And, of course, you remember Wally Richardson. You remember Kim Herring. Being around Penn Staters on Saturday night was not a blessing. And Herring's from Cleveland, by the way, too. He lives in Jersey. But being around those 35 guys and the Billick thing and the whole weekend, Terps get their ass kicked. We lose to the Browns. And I still didn't have an awful weekend because I was with Jack Del Rio. How can you have a bad time when you're with Jack Del Rio?
No, you can't. But, before the popcorn had even cooled off from the microwave, the Terps were down 14-0, 7 minutes into the first quarter, and it was a long, long game. And I couldn't watch anymore after halftime. I fell asleep on my couch, and everybody was so hyped up. Not a good weekend for the region, that's for sure. But you know what? There are other things bigger than that in life. You experienced some of that over the weekend. I did as well. And life goes on. We get a chance to do it again next week.
I saw somebody on Twitter because these people follow me. I don't follow them, just so you know. Someone said, 54 and 108. I'm great with that. At least they didn't lose 110.
You know what? It's all perspective. Look, I don't tweet much when I'm at the games. I tweet when the team is away because I'm at home in front of my big screen. I may have my laptop in front of me, and I can actually do some analysis, in-game analysis. But when I'm at the game, I like to absorb the sights and sounds. It was great seeing all the former Ravens at the stadium. Great to see Coach Billick inducted into the Ring of Honor. That was definitely that was worth the price of admission alone.
Dennis, and we talked about this because all the players were talking to me all day Saturday down at the park, and I went out to dinner. We went to Ruth's Chris. We wound up over at Uzo Bay. We're running around the city, and several different players from different eras, even coaches, said, "What do they do now that Ray doesn't dance? Now that Suggs is gone, and now that Ray's gone, there's nothing that." They all talked about it. Tony Pashos, one of your Greek brothers who I spent some time with on Saturday, he literally texted me, I'm not making this up, on Saturday morning, he texted me the song Hot in Here. Mm-hmm. Literally, he sent me the Apple Music link to Hot in Here and said, that gets him fired up. At 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning, that's the soundtrack he's hearing when he's in Baltimore, and that's gone now, right? The band's not there anymore. They don't play U2 anymore. All the John Modell music's gone, and they're trying to change it. And they come out, and Earl Thomas does the thing on his knee, and they run out. And if they introduce Lamar, we get a nice applause, and there's different people in the stadium, as you know, than there always were the same 60,000 that watched Ray dance every week. But I'm up in the upper deck, and I'm in game mode, right? They're doing the fly, they're doing all this, players coming out. And then there's Billick coming out of the tunnel with the trophy. And the trophy looked like a light to the gods, didn't it? I mean, the sun was hitting it, it was glistening, And It got dusty in the first row of the upper deck for me, Dennis. Like, I wasn't ready for that emotionally. Like Billick out there, and it looked like he got emotional too. It looked like he had the Banshee and the Spear and the Den and the Lions, I wanted to hear that, I thought Billick out there holding the trophy, you don't tippy-toe into the Den. Yeah, I thought we would hear that, and I thought, man, that was the best thing I've ever seen come out of that tunnel that wasn't Ray Lewis dancing. And I thought, man, we should do that every week, right?
Yeah, it was really great. And look, Ray Lewis was such a dynamic player, such a huge personality. And look, Terrell Suggs tried a couple of things, with the mask, the Bane mask he had. And, a couple of weeks ago we had Halodinata with the shield. But you'd like to think that player can be Lamar Jackson, but Lamar is a humble kind of a guy. He doesn't really like to draw attention to himself. He's a team-first kind of a quarterback, but he might be the guy that, maybe puts an ear like Hulk Hogan up to the crowd to get him fired up. But we were so fortunate just to be able to witness players of Ray Lewis's magnitude and personality and Ed Reed and all the greats that we were fortunate to see come out of that tunnel.
Well, I would think, and I did think about this, like of all of our great players and the Ring of Honor guys and all the Purple Jackets, and I was down at City Garage on Saturday. Lovely picture. Missing Ed Reed and Ray Lewis, but we'll figure that out. I thought about this, like if they had the trophy, there's 106 players plus another 20 coaches that are alive, and if a few of the players are not alive, that celebrated the win, right? Wouldn't it be something if our tradition 8 times a year would be to bring back one of our champions from either one of those teams and come out holding that friggin' trophy up? Because, like, you only have to do it 8 times a year. And, we got 100 alumni hanging out, Have Kyle Richardson come out, hold the trophy one week. Have, I don't know, Dennis Pitta come out and hold it. Because, Jared Johnson didn't win and Todd Heap didn't win. But there was that little period in those 12 years. Trevor Price didn't. We had some great players here didn't win. Didn't win here.
Matt Stover did that, to your point. Matt's local, and it was great to see Matt at the stadium as well.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah. I mean, it was the best homecoming. It was truly the first Ravens homecoming I've ever been a part of, where it's been like guys that don't know each other. Will Demps doesn't really know Peter Boulware because they, what I mean? Like there's certain guys that didn't connect over the dots, and that's kind of the interesting part, for the old guys and the new guys. That's really neat, and that's something we did not have here 20 years ago. It's something we couldn't have because we had no alumni, right?
Yeah, and I also thought was really neat was watching Bisciotti put the jacket on Coach, and I could almost hear Coach saying, "Thank you, young man," but we leave that one right there.
Oh, that's what you're gonna drop. You're gonna drop the mic on that, are you, Dan?
I couldn't resist with that one, but it was really. I thought he had come full circle at that moment that Steve put the jacket on Coach.
How about Ozzy? I mean, Ozzy's speech was like right up there with Alex Lifeson from Rush.
Yeah, Ozzy's pure class, and look, what a magnificent era, and hopefully now with Eric DaCosta, the Ravens can capture some of that old glory, old magic, and bring it back again. Look, it's been a great ride for us to witness two winning Super Bowls since 1996 here in Baltimore.
Well, we had a glorious weekend right up until maybe kickoff or right around the time Mark Ingram fumbled the ball. Dennis Koulatsos will be here on Thursday from 3 until 5 with the SSV on WNST, and of course, sponsoring our tech service and, any breaking news that happens injury-wise, where we are with Brandon Williams, where we are with Mark Andrews, and all the other things that ail us here as we go into Pittsburgh week. Lucas on the backfields at Owings Mills. I am headed to Pittsburgh this weekend. You can find me Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, anywhere you are, we are, WNST.net, and Baltimore Positive and Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.